traced part of this fault system here, extending from this larger red circle up here to this red square down here. What we can do now is plot this trace and mesh it as well. When it comes to the meshing, we have to specify the desired fault length, or the size of these triangular elements, and this comes in here, desired fault length, and this value is in kilometers. So 2 kilometers, quite a big value, or large element size. Anyways, let's have a look. Just pressing this button, and you can then see the digitized trace. You can take it and rotate it. Alright, this is how it looks like. If you say you want to use smaller triangular elements, you can just change this value here, for example, to 1 kilometer, and retrace. And not retrace, remesh, I'm sorry. So you can see this right now here. Alright. One thing to say is, right here you can see the name of the fault that we have selected, and right down here you can see the values associated with this fault trace. Let's say we want to trace another fault. In that case, we go away from this continuing, select a different, so we deselect, uncheck this box here, and let's say we want to trace next the fault number 2. And let's say we want to assign a different slip rate to this particular fault, and in that case we can specify the values here. But first I want to trace it. So I want to trace again. This is the name. I don't want to continue, which means I start a new fault. Alright, so we come back in here, and let's see, I want to trace now, making a bit of a gap here, this portion. Alright, again, it doesn't have to be precise. This is just for educational purposes, so to speak. Okay, so now you can see our fault, next fault. The ID is still the same. We have to change this down here, giving it a different value, and you can see that the values are still the same. So I should then be able to press this button here. Let's say apply to the selected fault. So I check this box and now say for the selected fault, now change the value, for example, to 5 millimeters. Alright, this is done. And so now I can see here it's 10 for fault 1 and 5 for fault 2. If we again now mesh the fault, we will see both of these faults in here now. And you note already that one of them has a red outline. This is always the one that's selected right here. The selected fault gets a red outline, just to help you visualizing things. Alright, I'm closing this window again. So something we can do, which is actually quite fun, is but we can also trace the bottom fault, not only the top trace but also the bottom trace. And in this case, for example, I want to do this for fault number 2 here, and let's say in this case I have to press this button, and let's see what happens. So I will just instead of just meshing right away, I go to this 3A portion and then press it. So now I can trace. In this case, the trace for the bottom fault is in blue. And one thing is important: you have to start or go in the same direction. So here's the starting point, here's the end point for the top trace. So we have to do the same thing for the bottom trace, starting here, going to here. And the beauty of doing this is that you can make really quite interesting and complex geometries. So for example, I might have well, like something like this. Alright, and press space again, and if we now mesh this, you will see what this looks like. So the top trace is not changed, but the bottom trace now gets this let's say not weird, but this complex geometry that we traced, where the dip angle or dip direction changes along the fault. Okay, Yes. Alright, I think that's it for this particular video. Alright.